Welcome to the Afro Anime Initiative podcast, where we discuss diversity, representation, and all the beautiful black characters that we love to see in our in our cartoons. I'm your host Darren Bradley, along with,
Paulina Guerriere, hi.
and today we will be discussing the inspiration for this podcast. I know last episode we talked a lot about Black Panther. You know, Black Panther came out, awesome. By the way, I saw it.
Nice.
Paulina, have you seen it yet?
No, not yet, but I will see it this weekend with my mom.
Excellent, awesome. Take everybody to go see it. Tell your pop, anybody, tell them to go see it. It was great. I went with my aunt and my little cousin.
Nice.
It was so much fun.
That's great.
Um, but we talked about that our last episode. This episode, we want to talk about our inspirations, why we're doing this podcast, and the characters that helped inspired us to want to talk more about the black people we see in our cartoons and animation and why they're so important to us.
hmm So, you want to start with what you're familiar with, Darren?
You know what? We can do this any way you want. You have the show notes today, but first, let's tell people where they can find us.
Okay. So, you could just find us on our multiple social media. First, here on YouTube, Afro underscore AI. You could also find us on Twitter, which is the same, Afro underscore AI. You can also find us on Instagram. We just set up our Instagram, and it's literally Afro Anime Initiative. It's just one whole thing, um, because the other one was taken, but that's okay. And our Facebook group page, it's, Afro AI, Afro Anime Initiative. So either way, type that in, you'll be able to find us with our logo. And that's about it for now.
And all links are in the description below, correct?
Yes, they are.
Excellent. All right, let's get into it. You kick it off. Pick one. Let's
All
go.
right, all right, all right. Fine. Let's start off with Captain Planet. How about that?
Captain Planet, he's a hero. Gonna save the Lucian. Captain Planet was so awesome for me as a kid. First of all, it was doing the great everybody must recycle and save the earth. This is what, back in 1990, and obviously we didn't do that. We didn't save it. But back then it was very important. And Captain Planet had some of the best, most diverse cast, good, crisp animation, and of course a beautiful concept. But the thing that made Captain Planet so important for me is Kwame. He was to me the first African character I saw in cartoons that wasn't a joke. They weren't making fun of his accent. His accent wasn't blown into stereotype. No, he was just a cool dude from Africa, and his power of Earth, all that mattered. And he was a team leader.
He really was. He was actually the unofficial leader because of his demeanor. Like he was the tallest member. So there you go. And
True, true, true.
but yeah, he was very calm, level-headed. He was very nice, like really kind, and very very understanding, considering his upbringing and like how he was with the other Planeteers. He was like a big brother to Wheeler. He was like a mentor to Mati, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly.
Mm-hmm.
The
My teeth.
yeah, Mati. And he was just overall like really really cool. And he was also I think the first Planeteer because he found the ring and that.
The first ring.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
in the dirt when he was
Mm-hmm.
what was he doing? See, now I don't remember. But
Because he wasn't farming, but he was out in the field, though. I don't
yeah,
think he was farming. I don't remember that. Yeah, but he was out in the field.
yeah, he was. I didn't remember exactly what he was doing, but like he was using he had a staff, and he was
Mm-hmm.
kind of like he found it with his staff, and from there is to was the representation of Earth, and he was voiced by LeVar Burton. And for those of you who are very familiar with him, he was in Star Trek, and most importantly, Reading Rainbow.
Reading Rainbow.
Huge chunk of my childhood right there. So he
Yes.
has quite the resume, LeVar Burton, and I'm really happy that
Hold on.
what?
LeVar Burton does have a huge resume, but you don't have to take our word for it. I mean, how did you not see that coming? I
I mean,
mean, I'm just saying that.
oh my god, this threw me off. I'm like, oh my gosh. No, I got it. I love it though. I love it. I love it. Um, No, I'm just saying that it's impressive because his voice was very recognizable. Like he did recognizable
Mm-hmm.
roles. You know, he may not have done
Mm-hmm.
a lot, but he was still like, he had a lot of weight to his roles. So I really
He's
really
iconic.
what is it?
LeVar Burton is iconic.
Yes, there you go.
Everything he did was iconic.
Iconic.
You like he said he was if he did Ring, he did Ring. How many? The show. It was it. He got on Star Trek. He was on Star Trek. Stayed on Star Trek, which became the show
Right.
for I don't know how many years. Like everything LeVar Burton did was iconic.
That is true. Yep, there you go. Anything he touches becomes iconic. There you go.
Yeah.
He's just one of those. So he so thank I mean I would love I just would love to meet him one day, like as many other voice actors. But an interesting thing about Kwame and Captain Planet was that for those of you who may be familiar with the show on Cartoon Network, it is called OKKO and it came out like summertime 2017. And back in November, they did like a Save the Earth kind of episode, and
Mm-hmm.
Kwame made an appearance. Like he literally like skydived using solar panels or something like that. Like he was still environmentally conscious, and
Still saving the earth.
exactly. And he was recruited because there was like a villain, forgot her name, who wanted the world to know about global warming because apparently not enough people believed in it. So she wanted to speed up the process of global warming just to prove that it existed. So she was like one of those kind of villains that just destroyed things to make a point.
Mm-hmm.
So because of that, in the show, the leading character Ko, he wants to be a superhero, so he like works at this convenience store where you can train to hone your skills as a superhero. And his coworkers didn't really pay all that much attention to the rapid and really terrible changes, the terribly polluted parking lot, the fact that the polar ice caps was melting, so the parking lot was flooded, and they thought it was like, hey, free makeshift lake. And he was like, no, this is terrible. So Kwame appears, and you know Ko was like, "Hey, you can help us." And Kwame, he had all the rings, and the reason being was that it was revealed later that him and the Planeteers, like, they all got into like
Spoilers.
what? Oh,
I'm just saying
sorry,
spoilers on
spoilers.
us.
Sorry, yeah, spoilers. That he and the other Planeteers got into like conflict after conflict, and they had to break up ultimately because no matter how hard they fought to save the Earth, they just couldn't keep up. It got to the point where like you look at the world right now, it's like global warming really is here. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
ravaging our world. So it kind of takes on a bit of a bitter note for considering a kid
Mm-hmm.
show, but that's a lot of children's shows anyways. So
See, yeah, because that's the thing about the original Captain Planet. Like they didn't like sugarcoat. They're like, "Hey, you're gonna die from this.
yeah.
Stop it!" Like that was in the show.
Yep.
Like the pollution, the toxic, the smog. Like they were like, "Yo, you're gonna die.
Yeah.
Y'all, we need to stop."
Right. Like, please take care of the earth, love the earth, do the little things, recycle all of that, and the earth will be
Mm-hmm.
okay. But, again,
We didn't listen. We didn't
we did
listen at
not
all.
listen and look at the world right
We
now.
didn't listen at all.
Nope. And that's what I love about his appearance too. And another fun thing about it was that LeVar Burton reprised his role as Kwame too. So that made me
Nice,
extra excited, as well as David Coburn as the original voice of Captain Planet.
nice.
So yeah, they summoned him and they defeated the villain, but then they gave that message saying like, hey, still do what you can, but sometimes the there's not much you can do to change much. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So it did take on a bit of a bitter note. So while I was excited, at the same time it was like, oh well, that's pretty eye opening. So
So what I hearing is they need to bring back Captain Planet. Planeteers all grown up,
hmm
and a new generation comes to take over, and Kwame is their mentor
yes,
on some some old school Power Rangers. He's Zordon.
yes,
That's Kwame is the new
that is
Zordon. And
perfect.
we
That's our idea.
and Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, Disney. You know what? I'll let you have that one for free.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yes, no, it needs to happen. Seriously, like you guys listening in, let us know if that would be a great idea too, because I would love to see that. Like a whole new generation of Planeteers, Captain Planet coming back, and just dealing with the modern issues of global warming and what we can do to take care of the Earth now. So, another character that we consider black, but more so Afro Latina, is Gaia. Why do you think that is, Darren?
Mother Earth. Yeah, Gaia black. She Earth. She's Mother Earth. She black. I ain't got no problem with her being Afro Latina, but she black. I mean, like the voice I remember for her, I believe it was Whoopi Goldberg.
Yep.
I think other women did her voice,
Mhm.
but the voice I remember is Whoopi Goldberg, and Whoopi Goldberg is Queen. She black. Gaia was always
Ah,
black to me.
well, there you go. There you go. Like she did do like we had what is it? Gaia had like three different voice actresses.
hmm
I think the first one was Lynette Medi, but she was only for the pilot. And then
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Whoopi Goldberg was for the first three seasons from 1990 to 93. And then the rest of the series was Margaret Kidder from 93 to 96. So she has an
Okay.
extensive background. She's mixed, primarily
Right.
black.
That's exactly as most Afro Latinos are. They're mixed. So Gaia was mixed.
There you go.
She's in there.
Boom.
She definitely's in
Yep,
there.
definitely. But yeah, I can definitely see how she has, or at least take on that representation for, black women, the embodiment of Earth,
hmm
and that's how I've always imagined, representation for Earth at least, or natural elements when telling a story about saving the Earth or stuff and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, definitely, Gaia is definitely considered that. Wasn't she also the like what was it for Heart? For like out of all the rings, for Heart, she was the one most connected to, as well as Captain Planet.
hmm
So if it isn't for her, then Heart wouldn't even work.
Yeah, because with heart is the compassion for her to keep caring,
Yes.
to keep loving people, even though they're just showing.
Yep. There you go. So yeah, so those are the big two for Captain Planet, and I can go on and on
So
about
they were
them.
definitely two. Yeah, they definitely two inspirations for me. It's like, oh, cool, black people on a regular basis, and like and leave stereotypes, and then like I said, one represents Earth itself. It's like cool,
Yep.
excellent.
Exactly.
Like that's right. Yeah.
And that's the power of representation. So, all right. So, next show is the X-Men animated series with our favorite. Yep.
Okay, I don't want to get copywritten, but
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. Yep. With our favorite Storm,
Dog.
who was 100% the character I absolutely loved seeing when I watched the show when it first aired, because she was the picture of like the strong black woman, but not in the sense that she was invincible emotionally and psychologically. She was human, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and she was a very compassionate woman, very, there for her teammates. And I think she was what, like second in command of the X-Men?
Yeah, on a cartoon, yeah.
Yeah. So with good reason, really, cuz she had a level head, and well, she had to, because her powers were connected to her emotions. If she was ticked off, then all hell broke loose, really. So, yeah, so control she has the power to control weather, which is really awesome for me, cuz imagine like just
Another Earth element,
yeah,
power of Earth.
exactly. Another Earth connection, and another cool thing is that she was born in Kenya and raised both in Harlem and Cairo. So she traveled around a bit. It's no wonder she
Mm-hmm.
was so educated, and the way she carries herself, it makes a lot of sense.
They didn't put a they didn't put a lot of Harlem in the show though. They did the Kenya and Cairo stuff in the show, but they didn't do a lot of Harlem.
Which
Harlem stuff is more a later retcon in the comics.
mhm.
They didn't really do it in the cartoon.
Yeah, they didn't do it as much as I hoped, but still, like you could still see that she was a worldly woman though. Like the way she carried
Mm-hmm.
herself, like basically like royalty. So her voice actresses, she had two of them. And the first one was Iona Morris from 92 to 93. So I think it was like for 1 year, for like,
Oh, the first year.
yeah, the
Okay.
first season. And then for the rest of the series, it was Allison Seeley Smith from 93 to 97. So,
Oh wow.
mhm. So she had a versatile, if I'm saying it correctly, I'm probably not. Oh well. Voice in the series, and I probably wouldn't have been able to tell the difference if I watched the show again. Then I would be able to hear the difference. But
Right. That's what I'm saying. I don't remember it. It sounded like two different people at all.
right, right. But then again, you remember that you watch these shows as kids. We don't really pay attention to those things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think for cartoons, I think for like the Fresh Prince, that was obvious. But I'm not gonna get into that. What else about her that drew your attention, Darren?
She was always there. Like this is the thing that always it that's what I'd say representation is important. Like Storm was always around.
Hmm.
She wasn't a guest star. Storm was on the team. Storm was, like I said, like second in command. And she was there. She was helping somebody, or she was the main focus. Like there are episodes where she's the star, and those episodes are great.
Hmm.
There's just stuff you didn't see that much. And then for it to be on like the probably one of the popular shows of the time, a show that probably possibly saved, comic books, it was just cool for her to be there and to be like comic book accurate. Like they didn't dumb her down, they didn't change anything, they didn't change her background. She was an African goddess, one of the most powerful mutants, and she was an X-Men, and that was it.
Best thing about that was
And the way she
what?
go ahead.
Well, I was gonna
No, I
say,
was gonna say, and the way she talked.
yeah,
I summon the powers of the wind. Oh, this evil blight. Like, just the way they had her, like, was just great.
yeah, oh yeah, like very majestic almost, or majestic.
Very, just very.
So very majestic, and and I lost my train of thought. That is terrible.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. No, it's all good. It's all good. But I also found it interesting that she was like the later. She was later leader of a group called the Morlocks. They were like
Hmm.
underground in the sewers because their mutation took shape like physically, so they couldn't live among like
Yeah, they couldn't pass.
yeah, they couldn't
They
pass. They couldn't be
couldn't.
with the surface
Yeah,
dwellers. So she did take over as their leader for a while, but she had to give the title back to I think it was Castillo because she wasn't there all the time. Like she couldn't
Callisto.
Callisto. I see. I look at it as Castillo. Um, she couldn't be there all the time because she was busy with the X-Men. So,
Yeah.
but she was still
But
the kind of leader she was though was rather compassionate.
mhm. But that's the thing about Storm. Like you said, in the comic books, the same thing happens. She becomes leader. Or more like the same thing happens for her with the X
Yeah.
Men. She wins the right to be a leader of the X Men in the comics, which I really wish they had did in the TV show. But stuff like that, like Storm earns her spot.
Mhm.
Like that's one of the things they never take away from her. She always earned her place,
She did.
which is why it like I don't think there's an animated iteration of the X Men
Mhm.
where Storm's not on it. Like I know she's in X Men Evolution, Wolverine, the X Men. I don't think she's in the anime. I can't remember if she's in the X Men
She
anime.
would have to
But
be.
Storm is always there. Like once again, like it's her. She's she's just a quintessential part of the team
Mhm.
ever since she got introduced. And that's just a powerful thing to have a strong African woman in such a powerful position and just to be acknowledged as one of the most powerful. And she's always there. Like that's always been cool.
It's no, you're absolutely right. And I remember saying when I was a kid that Storm was my favorite mutant. She was my favorite X-Men. And I remember like being told by the other kids like, "Oh, she's overrated cuz she's like everywhere and she's too powerful this that and the other." And I remember feeling like really sad and I was like, well, "How come no one's cheering for Storm?" Now, as an adult, I'm just like she's just amazing because I at least can see what kind of character she was or is still and appreciate her presence in the X-Men. Like she wasn't an overrated character. She was an incredibly important foundation. She was part of the foundation of the X-Men for me. She
Hmm.
really was. So, yeah, she was everywhere. She kind of had to be very much like Professor X, very much like Cyclops and Jean and the main members of the X-Men, but she literally was there almost from the beginning, practically.
She is like people don't understand like when there was the original five X Men, when they weren't popular. The X Men got canceled
Mhm.
on the comic book side.
Yeah.
They got canceled. But when they brought in a more diverse cast, and that's including Storm, that's when the X Men blew up in popularity. That's when everybody's like, "Oh, this is something to really get into, something to read and watch." And Storm hasn't left ever since then. He's always been around since then because he got introduced as a part of the second team,
Mhm.
and she hasn't left since.
No, she hasn't. And a real quick thing, I've noticed in other shows that she was in, like for example, X-Men Evolution, she was always there. She wasn't there as often, but she was still there as who she was, primarily for support
Yes.
and primarily as a really powerful mutant who saved the kid's butt every time something happened.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go, like almost like the team mom, which was hilarious because in that
Yeah.
version in that X-Men Evolution, I think she was the adult, like she was.
She was one of the adults. Again, they changed a lot with that
Mhm.
show, but she was one of the
Yeah,
adults.
definitely. So they just kept her character in character, which is what I appreciate about
Hmm.
Storm so much. And it like just the consistency. And I think it's just at this point as a character you can't change much without being punished for it. I feel like she's taken on a life of her own as a character, as an entity.
Hmm.
So Storm is a great character. I love her very much. So
Very much so.
so our next character from another very fun show, Static Shock, is Virgil Hawkins, aka.
I don't remember the Static Shock thing. I always forget the Static
Do
Shock.
you?
I can never remember it.
I remember it because that was I remember when Static Shock was aired on the Kids WB back when Kids WB existed. And that
Hmm.
was I think it was like a Saturday morning, one of the Saturday morning cartoons next to like Pokemon and the mother shows. And I had a lot of fun watching it because for one thing, the cast was diverse. The main character was a black kid. Like I think the inspiration for Virgil Hawkins was that he was a pretty much like a black teenage version of Peter Parker. Of like they wanted like a version of that because they saw that Spider-Man was so popular, so they decided to do the same for Static Shock. And he was pretty popular too, but I think they started off as comics, but they had to, I guess they canceled them and they revived it through the show.
They were the Milestone imprint,
Yeah.
started by one of my heroes, Dwayne McDuffie.
Mhm.
Rest in peace. Um, and in the comics, he's a little bit rougher.
Mhm.
You know, he's still a kid, he's still down to
Right.
earth. They they did clean it up. I don't want to say clean it up, but they did make it a little bit more kiddie friendly for the cartoon, which I think was freaking genius.
Mhm.
Because what it did was allow them to get to a wider audience and kept the milestone characters alive.
Definitely.
Because like I said, the comic books did get canceled before they got bought out by DC.
Mhm.
And you know, DC every once in a while try to bring them back. But Static was always the most. Static became their most popular character with thanks to that TV show.
Yes, he totally did. And he was he was one of the characters like I love how they just made him so down to earth and easily relatable because he didn't have his mom with him. I think she died from like gang warfare trying to help somebody in the street. And
Hmm.
he had an older sister who got on his case all the time, but she loved him unconditionally. And his dad was another character I really, really enjoyed because he kind of reminded me of my dad, who, the kind of guy who took the time to talk to his kids and to make sure that they understood the harsh realities of life. And just a quick note, I think his voice actor was Kevin Michael Richardson, who's been in a lot of other stuff as well. I'm not going to list right now, but he was definitely a character that was always there to at least guide his son the right direction because the town they were in was like riddled with gang activity,
Hmm.
which was how Virgil got his powers in the first place.
Dakota City.
What was it?
Dakota. Dakota
Yes,
City.
Dakota City. And it was from like gang what is it, altercation that he gained his powers because it was like at a
The
waterfront.
explosion,
Yeah, an
the
explosion
incident.
at a waterfront.
Hmm.
And
It was a chemical plant.
mm, because I think like what was it? Like the a SWAT team like they wanted to they threw a smoke bomb and it hit one of the canisters and it blew up
Hmm.
and everybody there who
That's how everybody got their and got powers and
yep
stuff.
and
It was a cool way to set off that little part of the universe.
yeah, it was really cool. And I really appreciated that because they call, have nicknames for them. They called them bang babies, which I thought was weird and
Hmm.
really interesting, but his powers, like he was able to create like a static field and manipulate the energy like electromagnetic phenomena. So basically electricity or static and make
Static charge.
static charge. And the fun thing about him was that he didn't just jump in and used his powers and got, you know, wham bam, thank you, ma'am. He was really, really good at the sciences, at understanding the sciences. And he used that to
Yes.
his advantage against his enemies,
Yes.
which made it so much more fun to watch him. And he was very good at improvising. He was very fun to, see what he would come up with if he was in a tight spot. And what was another really cool thing about it was that his best friend would come up with gadgets for him to use even though he didn't use a lot. Like the two big ones that he used was like a static saucer, like that flying saucer that he would use, because sometimes he would use like the tops of like the sewage caps, sewer caps. But
Hmm.
then his friend was like, "Nah, use this saucer thing." And then like he would use his powers to fly around on it. And another thing were like these grenade things called zap caps. And
The zap
yes.
caps. Right. Right. Right.
And Virgil would use that in case his powers were like really really low and he was unable to
Hmm.
use his own reserve, so it was just like some used to at least get away or gain an advantage or what have you.
Yeah, it was something about it was I guess you would call it the Peter Parker
Mhm.
thing. They showed his
Yep.
struggles, and that's what made him cool. Plus, his twists were always bomb.
Yep.
The hair was always
Yep.
great, no
His
matter
little
what. And
dreads. I
they
love it.
kept that in exact. His dreads they were locked, so they were perfect.
Yep.
And they didn't take away. They didn't try to change that from his character.
Mm-mm.
About no, the kid this is a black kid. He likes his hair this
Yep.
way. Like, and that's cool.
It is cool. And I knew a lot of kids with that hairstyle too, so it was really cool to see that on the screen in front of me all the time. It was really cool to see that. So I really would love to see more shows like this. I don't know. I heard that they were gonna do a reboot, either a movie or a show. I'm not sure.
I know, I know the comics are supposed to be coming back. There's a lot of legal stuff
Mhm.
involved, and DC, the Milestone creators, so the state, Dwayne's the state, and
Mhm.
everything. Because like I said, he passed
Yeah.
away. So there are things going on, but hopefully they get things settled and we start to get new characters from Milestone and especially Static.
Mhm.
Because again, Static became the flagship character, and it just sucks not to see him in so many things that DC is doing right
Mhm.
now. That especially on the comic book side, the video game side, like Static would be great in like
He
everything that they're
would.
doing
He
right
really
now.
would, and it's a bit disappointing, but I think it's just like you said, legal issues maybe surrounding that. So I don't know. I'm keep
Hopefully they clear that stuff up.
Yeah, I'm keeping my fingers crossed because sometimes timing is everything. We can't always have all the characters we want happen at once. So hopefully things clear up and we get to have the Static Shock either movie or series revival or comic book revival too. Who knows? Hopefully it'll be
Yeah,
soon or at a good time. Yeah.
exactly.
Also, before I move on to the next character, um, the voice actor for Virgil slash Static Shock was Phil Lamar. And for those of you who know this name, for as long as you can remember, I know he was in well, Mad TV, so he was definitely known in the physical acting sense, as well as Samurai Jack. So there you go.
He got cred. Lamar
Oh
got
yeah, he's
cred.
definitely got cred. He's also done quite a bit of other voices too. I know like for anybody who's seen Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, he was the voice of Wilt, that tall red,
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
that tall red basketball imaginary friend, like
Mhm.
really the really
Mhm.
nice one. Um, one of my favorites. So he's definitely recognizable. His voice at this point, like I can say that I would be able to recognize his voice because I was old enough to make the distinction.
Mhm.
Which brings me to my next character, John Stewart, the Green Lantern from Justice League. And
They don't have a theme. It was just music.
I I don't remember.
It's just like 6 seconds of horns.
Right, like most Green Lantern characters though.
Green Lantern.
But he too was also voiced by Phil Lamar. So that that right there for me was it's pretty cool. I mean, Phil Lamar has been in the DC universe for quite a bit then.
Yeah. He kills it with John. He made John Stewart popular. I'm sorry to say, but that he really that cartoon. No, that in Justice League Unlimited that made Green Lantern popular again because nobody was looking for them. Nobody cared. Uh, because before Jeff Johns started writing the comic books, nobody was looking for them.
Mhm.
And John, but that he kept that alive. That character, his portrayal, the writing,
Mhm.
his voice, and just the way they had him as an important member of the league, and they strayed away from his comic book side, like his military background, how he butts heads with people and he doesn't take any mess,
No.
and they made sure that was all in that portrayal, and it was
It
so
was
good.
very good. It was also like really what I notice about a lot of these characters, the characters that we've spoken about already, besides Virgil, Kwame, Storm, and John Stewart were very stoic characters. Like I don't want to say that they were
Hmm.
emotionless, but they held themselves in a way that was rather graceful and like I don't want to say emotionless because that's
Because John Stewart was
oh, he was
emotional.
very
He got
emotional. Oh
angry.
yeah.
He went to punch stuff.
He did, but at the same time though, he was still very like
He was level
yes,
headed,
there you
but
go.
he got emotional.
Mhm. He That's true, but he was also the one to point out all the bull crap in the team too.
He did,
And
yeah.
that's the number one thing I love about characters like that. Like they don't take crap from anybody. They will literally stand there and go, "No, that's not actually what happened. You need to sort your facts out. Excuse you." And
Hmm.
that was him all the way.
Yeah,
So, I mean, that was that
like
go.
no, I was saying that's a generation of kids and comic book fans who know John Stewart as their Green Lantern because there have been like several of them. But that portrayal because of that cartoon and because of Phil Lamar, there's a generation of people. No, no, no. My Green Lantern is John Stewart.
Exactly.
That's that impact. That's that importance. Like we say it again. That's that importance of representation. Like even if you're not black, but to put that character and what he is and his history and a part of him being African American, but that appeals to people if you put it up there, if you show them the way they are and don't make them a stereotype, if you just show them as the characters and people that they are and how that affects people and inspires them. Like I said, there's an entire generation that's their Green Lantern. That's why people want him, John Stewart, on the big screen so bad. They're like, yo, why do we not have this yet? Why do we not have our Black Green Lantern? Let's get this
Yep.
done. That's why Idris Elba name or comes up like every other year. Like, okay, he should be Green Lantern. And that starts here with this portrayal of the character.
That's absolutely true, and you're right because I remember when the first Green Lantern movie. Now I understand why they did this, but with the first, Green Lantern movie that just bombed, and I'll be petty about this and say I'm glad it did, but because I never
It's a
recognized
bad
any
movie.
other Green Lantern but but John. He was like even at
Mm-hmm.
the time when the show premiered and had its run, I did watch it sometimes, but when I first heard about it and like just watched it in passing, I saw the Green Lantern. I was like, "Whoa, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I thought he was a white dude. He's black now?" Oh, I'm watching this. Like
Mm-hmm.
I was I was
Yeah.
excited to see this because I'm like, thank you. I would love to see. I would like to see Green Lanterns of different races, but I was more focused on the black one,
Mm-hmm.
on Phil Lamar's iteration of.
Because you got one. Well, the original show you had seven, so it's like okay, I'm gonna watch this one.
Yeah,
Like that's. I mean, when you only get the one, you gonna gravitate towards the
yeah.
one, and that's
That's
bad.
true because I remember learning about several other Green Lanterns too. It was like a whole army of them, like a whole group.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why it it caught me off guard. It caught me off guard. Sorry. That's why it caught me off guard when I saw Jon Stewart. I'm like, this is fantastic, and his character is so well rounded, so well rounded.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just made it fun to watch him and for me to root for him and go, okay, so how come we don't have a Green Lantern movie with Jon Stewart? I am waiting. I'm waiting.
Yeah, if DC ever gets that stuff together, we should get it. Maybe, hopefully, possibly.
Fingers
No,
crossed.
they're never getting that stuff together. That's another. That's a whole other show.
Maybe, maybe in a whole different lifetime, or if
Mm-hmm.
some company buys out DC, which you may never know. You may never know.
Oh, there are talks. Oh no, there are talks.
Oh, are there? Okay, that's a whole different show.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, so there I have a huge appreciation for these characters, for their versatility, for their appearance, just there, for just being there in my childhood, for me to see them to go, okay, there are black superheroes, there are these black people who are human, but also there to kick butt and are powerful and are representations of what I see every day. So it's cool. It's
Mm-hmm.
really really cool. So so the next show I would have to pass the torch on to you would be G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero. But we're talking
Okay.
about what, the 83 to 86 version?
Okay. First of all, I would do the entire thing, but that would take too long because I would do both the TV show and the original animated movie thing. So I'm not. But I'm not gonna do
Okay.
that. Second of all, this is the thing about GI Joe. GI Joe had to be the most blatant. We made this to sell books and
Oh
cartoons.
yeah.
Like you knew the only reason the show existed was for books and cartoons.
Hmm.
But I mean for books and toys, not cartoons. That's what the only reason the cartoon was on. And it had patriotism in there. Oh, they was like, yes. And what you should do as a good American is buy all our toys. But there was in this show, there was one guy who can't my man,
Roadblock.
heavy duty.
Oh.
Roblox. I always mess up. Heavy duties later. But Roblox, big giant black
Yeah.
ball dude, took no gruff, punching out every enemy soldier he could see, stood side by side, the last man standing in some cases. Like Roblox was just that
Oh my
dude.
god.
He was just that dude. Carried the biggest gun, a gun that you see like mounted on vehicles. Like carry this. I got. Let me put this. I'm just gonna walk around with this like it's a regular
Wow.
hand. Like Roblox was that dude.
That's awesome. No, that's seriously awesome. And the actor was Blue Mankuma. I didn't want to butcher his name.
And the voice actor was a beautiful
Yes,
black
he
man.
was.
Just
Oh
beautiful.
my god.
It was just all around
Darker,
GI
darker
Joe.
than dark. Like he was the definition of black. Like that, it was perfect. It was the perfect casting.
Like, I'm not saying LeVar Burton ain't beautiful. Now, I'm not no diss to you, Mr. Burton, but I'm just saying this is back, man. Before you got to Captain Planet, you was probably still in Reading Rainbow. Star Trek hadn't even started yet, but this man was out here representing with Roadblock and this giant white army. No, it was like one other Asian person on there, and this giant white army. But Roadblock was on it.
Yep.
He was repping hard.
Yes, he was. Oh my gosh. So that's a really really beautiful thing. I really
But
hopefully I can get my
mhm.
hands on like a place where I can at least see this because I did see like throughout the years all the openings of the show, and you're right, it was just completely blatant. They didn't even bother with having a good theme song. Like it was
Well, good. It was
Not
the best theme song. What you
it was
talking about?
patriotic and exciting, but if you think about it lyrically, it was terrible. It was terrible.
See, you started. See, I wasn't gonna do it, but you had to talk
You
about
know
my
what?
theme
Go
song. It was the
ahead. Go
best
ahead.
theme
No one's
song.
stopping you.
No, I'm not gonna do it. I can't do it. It's long.
You should just scroll and show links to like the whole montage of all the openings though. But you yeah.
Nope, don't do that. Whoever's watching this, don't. Nah, go ahead, do it. It's fine.
Oh my goodness. But like you said, it's there you're absolutely right. It was straight up like, hey, the most patriotic thing you can do is buy our toys. Yeah. So,
hmm
because he's an GI Joe, American soldiers.
not only was he was from the
Mhm.
South,
Yes.
spoke that
Yep.
slang. Like Roadblock was the truth. Roadblock, like I know a cousin that's just like you.
Nice.
You the man.
That,
Roadblock was the
there you go.
truth
That's
back
your
in the
family
day.
member right there. Yep, right there. All right. So, the next interesting character is Bulletproof from Cops.
Oh no,
C.O.P.S.
there's absolutely nothing interesting about this
Oh.
character. The only thing about this show was so cool was fighting crime in the future time. That's the only thing. His voice is just cool, and because Cops was a mixture of like Carmen San Diego, Dick Tracy, and GI Joe. Like every character had something special about them. They all offset their enemies. The enemies were opposite mirror versions of them, and it was cool that the black guy was the leader,
Mhm.
bulletproof. But literally, his voice is just cool. The show lasted for like 1 year. It had like 800 episodes that one
Wow.
year, and that was it because it really wasn't that good. But I remember it because he was cool. He was the leader, and every fighting crime in the future time was just the best thing for me as a kid. It just made me every time made me giggle.
That was it made you excited. Honestly, I would have been excited too. But yeah, they had like 60 some odd episodes for 1 year showing
Mhm.
every day from like
Yeah.
88 to 89, I think. Yeah, 88 to 89.
Mhm.
And the voice actor
Yeah.
was Ken Ryan, a white
Mhm.
dude. So, yeah.
Wow. Wow. He did a good job. Fighting crime in the future time is
I
great.
mean,
It's just
that's the
good.
quality of a
But
good
that
voice
show was
actor.
terrible. Yeah, but that show was
Good.
terrible. It was really bad. It had some good concepts because they borrow, like I said, they borrow a lot from a lot of
Mhm.
different things. The show really
Just
wasn't that
wasn't
good.
good. Just terrible. Which,
hmm
considering a lot of shows in the 80s, though, cartoon and live action wise, weren't really that great. But there were still a lot that were good,
I
though.
mean,
I mean, most of them
yeah,
fall in the middle.
by our standards, they're terrible. But even back then, some of them was like, "Why y'all make this?" Okay, I'm gonna watch it anyway. I'm a kid. I ain't got nothing else
Right.
to do. But cool, like this makes no sense.
I'm already up. It's Saturday morning. Let's go. Let's do this.
Yeah, and I think it had to come around. I think the Cops TV show was super popular. I don't know if it had anything to do with that, but it was just a time where law enforcement was just a big thing. So making a cartoon out of it, or just trying to get like it just was the thing.
There,
So it was there, and like I said, it lasted that year. It was a bad show.
well, with you saying that about the cops documentary show, they did it like a reboot, I think, in the 90s of that cartoon show, but it didn't last very long again. But they had to change the name or at least add something to it because of the cops
hmm
television show. Like
Oh
they didn't
wow.
want them they didn't
Okay.
want it to have any association with it at all whatsoever because the spelling too, if you think about it. I'm not sure if like the live show took from that because I don't know. Like I don't even know what it stands
I
for.
think they're both on at the same time.
Cops came in. I think that I think that the live show came just a little bit after '89 though, because I think it started
Yeah.
early '90s. I know it started
Okay.
definitely early '90s if I'm not mistaken. Actually, I think it was around the time Jerry Springer started.
Oh, so yeah, it came after
Yeah.
Cops then.
Mhm.
Okay. I mean, it came after the cartoon. Okay.
Yep.
Wow.
Mhm.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's what it was. So, but he was okay. Yes, the show was terrible, but I liked how he looked though. Like he was like
The flat
Yep.
top, the cool
Uh huh.
glasses, the
Oh
trench
yeah.
coat. I remember him. I just that
He
show
was
was just
just
bad.
bad. And like, and just really, really, really cheesy. Like, I said this before the recording, that I thought how it was just really, really cheesy that with the heroes, they called themselves cops, but then you had the villains who called themselves crooks, like literally like the
Crooks.
acronym crooks.
The acronym was crooks. Yeah. So bad. So
I
bad.
laughed at that when I first saw that. I just laughed at it for a good 5 minutes because I'm like, this is so cheesy. Like, I really wish they continued on with like other shows with that kind of thing. Like, you have the hero and then you had the villain, and they were just opposites of each other in every way, including what they called themselves.
But that's the thing. Like, it's such a comic book thing to
Mm-hmm.
do. And if for some reason for that, it just didn't
Nope.
work. I don't know why. It just didn't work.
It didn't. It really didn't. I just, but the concepts were interesting. I just think that they didn't execute it the right way.
Yeah. I think it, like I said, I think it also just borrowed from too many other things and just wasn't unique
Mm-hmm.
enough. It just wasn't unique enough. It just borrowed from too many
Yeah.
other things.
And even so, though, if you think about it, when you have a show and you're combining like inspirations from other shows, there's a difference between, just throwing it all in and going, "Hey, that's our show," or just kind of doing like a shout out to this show by showing this scene from in our show from that show. You know what I mean? So I guess that's
Yeah.
just where they fell short.
Yeah, but again, like this is the era. I mean, it's not like we have left that era. People still have that era
Mm-hmm.
now. But some people make stuff for the art, and then they'll make merchandise after. This is the time where no, the merchandise you first, then we made stuff for to sell the
Mm-hmm.
merchandise. Cops is definitely a
Oh
part of that
yeah,
era.
oh yeah, because
Cops is
they had the okay, yeah, because the show was based on Hasbro's like 1988 line of action figures called Cops in Crooks.
mm-hmm.
There we go. That's why the show.
So it was definitely made to
Yep.
sell toys. It definitely was made to sell
It was just, yeah,
toys.
just a boost. Like, here's a show of it. Watch it now. Buy our toys. Yeah,
Yeah.
that didn't
At
work
the
out.
end of the day, it will always be remembered for that catchphrase for me. Fighting crime in the future, child. Just the best.
Oh my goodness. All right. So I think the next show we got is Berserk. That came out in '97.
Let's hold off on Berserk. Because there's a reason like, why Berserk's on. Let's hold off on
Okay.
Berserk. There's a for that because there's something special about
Okay.
Berserk.
All right. Then we can go on to Ghostbusters then. Winston Zedmore. Ghostbusters. Yes.
Ghostbusters. Okay, we're not gonna do it. Okay, copyright, copyright. Um, that Winston
Mhm.
Zedmore. The thing about the real Ghostbusters, because unlike in the movies, he was
Mhm.
there. He was
Oh yeah.
always there. Like he didn't come in
Mhm.
late. He wasn't put off to the
No.
side. Winston was always there. He was a part of the team. That's what made this cartoon to me just a little bit better than the movie, especially the second movie
Mhm.
anyway. Because Winston was there. It's just like he's a part of the squad and he's doing stuff.
Yep.
Not like he didn't do anything. Ernie Hudson is inspirational. Ernie Hudson is the man. But like his role is, it's kind of technically small. But in the cartoon, Winston is
Mhm.
there, and he's funny. He's charismatic. He gets a lot of good one lines. I mean, like for the time, the animation was real cool. Of course, you still have the iconic theme song. Like again, the great marketing. Like the toys were everywhere
Oh
back
yeah.
then, especially in between the two movies. Like it was just a good time, and just to have a cool black dude there, and it wasn't brought up a lot that he was black. That he's black. He's the black one, the black one, the black one, the
Mhm.
black one. No, he's just a Ghostbuster. It was just really
It
cool.
really was, and it shows a lot on his popularity because I know that the Ghostbusters cartoon it came out when '86, right? Yeah,
Yes.
like '86, and then with I keep thinking about Stranger Things because there was in season two. Spoiler alert in case anybody hasn't seen season two of Stranger Things. I remember that Lucas, the black kid, dressed up as Winston, and he got into it.
No, he didn't.
No, no, wasn't he was
No, no, that was the joke. He didn't dress up as Winston. They were saying you should be Winston. He's like, why should I be Winston? And they're like,
what?
because what? And like he just was because he was a black one. Like that was the whole point of
That's
that
true.
joke.
But I also remember him going like everybody wanted to be Winston because Winston was the cool one.
Yeah, he's like, but I don't want to be Winston, and that was the whole joke. It was great.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, but I mean, it was great for for representation at least. You know, for kids dressing up as Ghostbusters, even in the just to bring it up, even in the new movie. I mean, I never saw it, so I can't say it was good. I can't say it was bad. I just thought it was fun to see an all-female cast, but they still kept to the ratio of black to white characters in the movie. So
I mean,
I mean,
okay, so here's the thing. For me, that doesn't come into account because that movie was just bad. It had nothing to do with it being an all-female cast. The movie was just bad. It wasn't a good
that's what I
movie.
said. I never saw it, so I can't say if it was good or bad. I'm just pointing out what was
No,
there.
I saw it because again, it's a Ghostbusters. I'm a
Mhm.
Ghostbusters fan. Again, I grew up on
Right.
that stuff, and I went to see it. I'm like, oh no, this is just a bad movie. Got nothing to do with them being. It's just a bad
Okay.
movie. That's all it is. It's just a bad
Mhm.
movie. And that's the thing. The real Ghostbusters wasn't a bad cartoon. It was great. It followed the lore. It expanded on the lore. It had all the characters there. They tried their best to get some of the voices like the movies, even though no one could sound like Bill Murray. It was just impossible. But they tried, and but it was funny. And like I said, Winston was always there. He had poignant moments.
Mhm.
He was a part of. Excuse me. He was a part of the team. That was it. Nothing else. No, nothing had to be pointed out about anything. Winston was Winston. He's a part of the
No,
squad.
he definitely was. So yeah, the show ran from 86 to 92 and
Yeah.
which is a bummer. For me it's like a bummer. But the voice actor
How was that a
uh,
bummer?
I feel like it could have gone a little bit longer, but that's just me.
No, Ghostbusters popularity was one of those things where it's
Mhm.
iconic, it lasts, but as being like on top is a short time
Mhm.
period.
Okay.
Like it's a classic, and everybody will tell you to watch it. They'll tell you to buy it every time they re-release a Blu-ray or a DVD or something. But its popularity didn't really last that long. That's why we never got Ghostbusters 3. Because it's just like, okay, we're not getting a third one. It just wasn't as big as it was. Just it was a moment. It was a cool moment, but it was a moment.
Mhm. You're right. That's true. But the fun thing about it was that Arsenio Hall was the first Winston Zedmore from the first through the third season,
Wow.
and it blew me out of the water. It blew me out too. I'm like, how Arsenio Hall really? And he's
And as a kid, you don't know
right.
that. You can't tell that. You don't know who that. That's a cool dude.
That's true. Like he was genu- genuinely a really cool guy with an amazing resume. Like he's done a lot of stuff,
Hmm.
especially with Eddie Murphy. I'm not gonna get into it though, but I just love his work with Eddie Murphy, and it was just really cool that now as an adult we look back on it and go, oh my god, all these amazing actors were on these shows. You
Yes.
know,
Yes.
like
Like technically, Arsenio is an official Ghostbuster. Like that's
right,
cool.
such a cool guy as a Ghostbuster. Like how cool, how much cooler could that be? So when you like now it's just one of those things where you want to go back and watch these episodes or at least clips if they have them of these characters and just how many of them you can recognize, how many voice actors you can recognize from them. Because
I believe the real Ghostbusters is on Netflix.
is it?
Yeah, the whole show, the real Ghostbusters, is on Netflix right now.
Oh, I would have to look that up tonight or
Yeah,
soon.
as of this recording, it's
Yeah.
it's there. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna take your word for it and I'm gonna look it up and watch it because
What's it?
what?
No, you said he was only for the first
Yeah,
three seasons though. Who's the other
as
voice actor?
Buster Jones for seasons 4 through 7 for like the rest of the series. Then
Okay,
yeah,
nice.
and I think he was a white guy. If I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
So
Yeah, that makes
no,
me want
no,
to
no,
go
no,
back and
no, no,
check it
no.
out.
My bad,
Huh?
no. No, 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 no. He was a black dude because he was a
Okay. That makes me want to go back to see if I can hear Arsenio's voice in the
yeah.
change. Like I don't remember it changing. I just knew it was Winston.
Right. So just knowing the names behind the voices, it just makes it all the more special, really. So,
hmm
and fun fact about Buster Jones, he was, if anybody knew or remembered the Super Friends, he was Black Vulcan.
From the old like Justice League,
From the Super Friends before Justice League. Yeah, the Super
Super
Friends.
Friends. Right, 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 right. Oh my God! Wow.
Yeah. Yep. Mm.
Jeez. Oh, cool story. Real quick story. I mean, most geeks know this, but the reason that Black Vulcan even got on Super Friends because they didn't do Black Lightning.
What do you mean?
Like Black Lightning was supposed to do that, but for certain I can't remember the full story. But Black Lightning they couldn't get him on Super Friends, so they created Black Vulcan.
No wonder, because I'm looking at his costume. I'm like, this is reminiscent of Black Lightning.
Yeah, and it's so weird because like right now, at least especially on the television side, and they probably will start doing it in the
Uh
comics
huh.
real soon. They're pushing Black Lightning so hard. It's like y'all could have had Black Lightning
Yep.
10. Y'all could have been beat people out to this, but
Yep.
nope.
You're right. That's true. Sometimes timing is like off, really off, and it's like
Yeah.
okay, I'm hearing the show is doing all right. It's not too bad. It's actually pretty good.
No, it's
Yeah.
pretty fun.
So
It's better than most of the CW stuff right now, which will be also another whole topic entirely.
like way later, like in our 100th episode or
hmm
something, if we ever get to it, because
Right. If we ever run out of cartoon.
which we won't. We will not. I know we won't. But
Oh no,
what?
I said, oh no, we won't. We won't.
So, I mean, if anybody wants to talk about it, or at least, expand the topic on the CW shows, maybe wait until like episode 50 and then put a comment in the comments, and then we'll go from there.
Or and comment right now. Hey, don't forget you said episode 50. We're talking about CW shows. You can comment in this episode right now, so we
So we'll
will
remember,
remember.
yeah.
You can be the first person to say tell us this. So we'll do that. We'll give you a shout out in the 50th
Exactly.
episode.
As a reminder, let us know so we can
hmm
talk about it and let you know how much we appreciate all these amazing CW shows. Anyways, moving on. I think our final show, like you said, you wanted to wait till the end for Berserk, right? Yeah, is
hmm
the character Casca? Yeah.
hmm
So her voice actresses was you. What?
Hold on. That's how you're gonna do this.
Do what?
It's Casca.
See, I didn't see the show, so I can't.
So you gotta say
No,
that name right. It's
no.
Casca.
You said it for me. It's good. Everybody got it. You good? So yeah, she had two different voice actresses in Japanese, in the Japanese version and the American dub version. Yuka
hmm
Miyamura and Carrie
hmm
Kiranen, if I'm saying it correctly. Kiranen. Yeah,
Kieran. Kieran.
yeah. So yeah, we're talking about the one that came out in '97,
The first
the first
adaptation
adaptation.
of the
Yeah.
manga for Berserk. But the thing, okay, this is why Berserk is special to me. This is why Berserk is an inspiration for me starting the initiative. I love Japan. People know this about me. People know I love Japan. I do. But sometimes their portrayal of black people is terrible. It's stereotypical. It's archaic, and sometimes it's straight borderline. Or it's not even borderline. It's racist. It's racist. It's old school, like Jim Crow drawings. Like it's bad.
Caricatures and overblown
Yes,
exaggeration of features. Oh yeah.
yes. But when I first saw Berserk and I saw Casca, she was the first black person I saw in a Japanese produced anime that was just a person. And not just a person, but a strong person, a pivotal person. And just a good representation of just this is just put people there as they are. You don't have to really do anything extra. You put them there as they are, and show just show how beautiful it can be. And the thing about Berserk is, if you haven't watched it, Berserk is violent. Berserk is about demons. It's about friendship. It's got a lot of sexual overtones, but it's just about people, and they portrayed Casca as a person. And for me, that was the first time I saw that in anime, and like I said, it made me realize like we can do more of this, and it doesn't take away from the story. It doesn't detract from anything. Nobody screams, "Oh, look at the black one." Most of them just scream, "Hey, why is the girl out here?" you
Hmm.
know. But that's a part of the story. But her being dark skinned and black, and just she stands out by her look, by everything about her. It screams beauty, power, strength, and just importance. And it comes across in the voice acting. Like I said, it comes across in the art. It's a beautiful translation from the manga, and that was the first time I saw like, oh my god, this is not a character in something from Japan. It's not a. It's just not a caricature. That's what I'm meant to say. Sorry. It's that it was a real rendition of somebody,
That's fantastic.
and people don't talk about it a lot. And they've done like subsequent things. Like they've done 3 movies. They have a new series, and she gets lighter every time. Like no, and even though she still stays ducks, like the books are still coming out. She's still dark. And like, but every time they do a different meet, this is the only time, the first time, and like she stays her skin color.
Hmm.
They've been lighting up in every portrayal. And it's like, but this is one of the main inspiration for me. Like, no, we need to do this. We need to talk about this. Because this stuff is, like I said, is important. It's for people to see themselves represented and normalized. Like, it's not something weird or special, or it's just a cameo. They're only there for one story arc. Like, no, they are in the story. They are there. They exist. And for me, Casca is one of the huge standout and representations of that. Like Casca is definitely one of the main reasons why Afro AI is here, and it's because of that portrayal. I always mess up the creator's name. If I literally don't have it in front of me, I can never say it right. But what he created was a story that wasn't about that, and yet as he wrote it and expanded on it, it became about that. With Casca, like even though she might be the main focal point, there are of course other characters of color in the manga and in the shows and in the movie, but Casca standing out as that the first one and the only one you see for a long time. It just it feels special, especially when you don't see that a lot. Well, definitely back then, you just didn't see it a lot. You see it more and more now, but it's still spaced out. But with this, like I said, especially coming from Japan, it was to me it was very important.
That's wonderful. I think I have a tear in my eye. No. That's that's
I'm not
very.
laughing. I was like, if you watch Berserk, you'll have more than because man, man,
No, I
it's
feel you
rough.
though.
That's a rough
No, I
one.
feel you. I
That's a
feel you
rough
though.
one.
Because you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. It means that much to you. Part of the reason why we have this podcast right now. And it's great to see that in mediums that usually doesn't portray us in a good light. So Berserk did do a good job, well, at first, the manga at least, in portraying that and not putting her skin color as the main focus, as a lot of other mediums do for whatever apparent reason. So, putting her in such a light that you can only focus on her characteristics and her actions makes it stand out.
Yes.
So, it's great that you brought her up because I was, at first kind of questioning why, but I understand. I really do. So it's important to see that, not just in anime, but in all mediums. And we just need to have more stories cater to us people of African origin, of black origin, to see those stories and hear about our people in different scenarios, situations, and how they overcome them or sometimes fail them. It's really important to see that. So,
Indeed.
okay. So, I think that's it for now. We've talked about all that we could talk about, or at least what we brought up. And I thank all of our listeners. We thank you for taking the time out to listen to us for a whole hour talking about these amazing characters and amazing voice actors, all these, childhood heroes and people that we were able to see ourselves in. So we thank you for listening to us. Thank you, Darren, for doing this with me. And I am grateful to be here.
Of course.
I'm really happy to do this. And our question to you guys is, besides these heroes that we've mentioned, what other characters did you see as a kid growing up that you were able to see yourself in? What would you like to talk about in the comments or in our social media? Or just if you know us personally, hit us up. You know, talk to us. Let me know. Let Darren know. Let us know. What makes you excited? What superhero did you see when you were watching a Saturday morning cartoon? Okay? So, thank you for listening to the Afro Anime Initiative. Again, follow us on our social media: Facebook, Afro Anime Initiative, or Afro AI. Well, Afro underscore AI. But either way, it'll show up. As well as our Twitter, Afro underscore AI, and our Instagram, the whole thing, Afro Anime. Uh, sorry, yeah, Afro Anime Initiative. Excuse me. And the links will be posted.
She forgot the name, people. She forgot the name.
Thank you. And the links will be posted in the comment box in our description. Sorry, in our description below. And hit us up. So have a great one, and thank you so much. Bye.
See you next episode. Bye.